It's recording. Awesome. Cool. So, welcome to episode number 4 of the Mesmerise podcast. And with us today, we have Russ and Felipe of Penanceville.
How
you
guys?
guys doing?
Yeah, good man, you?
I'm good. By the way, the pause wasn't because of the band name. I was doubting myself whether or not I actually pronounced your first name right. Or is it just Philip?
Felipe. It's cool, man.
Alright, cool. So,
Susan, Darren, Karen.
Felipe makes it easier because we have a Phil on drums, you know. And Phil. Too many Phils.
Yeah, there can only be one Phil. It's not me this time round.
So welcome to come on the podcast, or as I like to call it at this point, welcome to the daytime recorded drinking session. As that's what everyone's doing at the moment anyway. But so Penanceville. I was supposed to have you guys on my previous podcast, so I'm really glad to actually finally get you guys on. Remember, did I message you, Russ, or did you message me this time round?
Because I can't remember, man. I think, we were going to sort it out before, but that didn't. Something happened with the last one, didn't it? Kind of, and you've reborn this one.
Yeah, so, no, I just got burnt out. That's all it was. Because the previous job I had, like the hours were always different, and it was just a nightmare to organise anything around it. So I just got burnt out. Doing video was a pain in the arse. So this is all just audio at this point.
You're saying that, man. You're in a band yourself, so like organising your own band, let alone organising other bands that you're then promoting their shit for. They'll burn you out, all right.
I didn't really have the band at that point. I think we were looking for people, but we haven't had the band then. I mean, as you know yourself, having been in many bands over the years, there's a huge difference from we're writing stuff to we're being active. Like the amount of activity between those 2 points is just completely different.
Yeah, man, for sure. Again, definitely. At the moment, though, it's a weird situation, isn't it? Like everyone's just trying to keep that momentum going that you had before. It felt like the band was starting to pick up a little bit, and then it's like literally like a portcullis slamming down on us. You're like, dang, like good shows we had lined up, booking agents, and it's like almost feel you got to go from the starting blocks again when we get the green light.
Exactly. I mean, it's so bizarre how this just happens. It's just like, yeah, everything's done. Like, fuck it. Everything that was supposed to happen, all your plans, gone.
Yeah, on the plus side, though, it's given me a lot of time to get better at guitar. I mean, it was when you first were going to have us in on the band. Felipe wasn't in the band. I've been looking for a guitar player for freaking ages. And there was no one that could kind of play the parts. Okay. Felipe came along and kicked my ass. So it's made me actually have to knuckle down and get better.
I remember you saying when we were having that drink in the pub a few months ago, saying how there's some guitarists, they're really good, but they can't do all this other intricate shit like chicken picking and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we had some guys come along that were like in a metal way, I guess you could say. They were sweet picking and stuff, but like they couldn't play something that, you need someone that can play something with feel, with real feeling to it, and also that can then play something when it requires a technicality, knows when to play, when not to play.
Basically serving the song.
Yeah, and also something blowing more smoke up Felipe's ass, but it's just like his musical knowledge. It's like encyclopedic. Like you talk about like certain recordings. I mean, like when we were hanging out around at my place, you were going on about because you used to run a music shop in South.
Yeah, it's a little independent record shop. So I got the gig at the record shop because I had this love for West Coast 60s psych and garage, from the Dead and the 30th Floor Elevators. And I used to drink with the owner quite a lot at the Grand in Leon C. I used to pester him all the time. Give us a job, give us a job, give us a job. And one day I bumped him into the high street, and he just said, "Yeah, come. You can. I need someone there for a few hours." And I was there for about 17 years. After that, do you know, I ended up like running it. I mean, it was great running it and not owning it because you can always pass the buck when someone complains. But yeah, people come in and you can never really. Have you seen that film? Isn't there? With Cusack in it and what's his name? Jack Black. And it's at the time, yeah, in the late 90s. That's exactly what it was like. It was, you know, you throw people mixtapes and they'll come in and give you stuff, and you just, as soon as you say, "Oh yeah, I used to like listening to say Santana," and someone will go, "Would you know the tune Gypsy Queen? That's Gabor Sabo. That's a cover. You should check him out." So then you go off and you find it, then you start listening to all this like Eastern European gypsy jazz stuff that I wouldn't have known about it. You know, when I grew up, you listen to someone like Van Halen, you read an interview say, "Oh, Van Halen liked Eric Clapton," which I'm not a big fan of, but you listen to Clapton and Clapton will go, "Well, I like Freddie King," and then listen to Freddie King, you know, and you follow the tree back to the roots of it. And then I used to just get stuck on all those bits. So being in that shop for that long, you know, it's just, I soaks it all up. I couldn't tell you how much an album's worth now, you know, or the pressing of it, but like the actual knowledge of the musicians and everything, it just stuck in there. But it kind of stopped around 2005. Ask me anything after that, I couldn't tell you Keens if they've got an album out even now.
I mean, this is obviously well before the internet was, you know, it was obviously dial-up at best kind of then, I think, you know, to actually have that knowledge then, because I remember, you know, being, you know, I'm a bit younger than you, but like trading albums with friends, you know, reading stuff in magazines. Nowadays, you know, in your phone, you can go around your buddy, or you can just jump in the car. They give you the code. Like here's like a million songs on tap. Whereas before, like you said, like imagine, you know, that would have been a dream thing for me. Like your position of being in that music store.
Yeah, I mean, I
wanted it was back, and I guess, I mean, how did you trace stuff back? How did you do it back then?
I couldn't understand. I mean, people I know. I mean, I was really good friends. Well, I still am. A mate of mine, Mick, he used to be a roadie for Hawkwind and Motorhead. He used to come in all the time, and he had his thing was Japanese psychedelia. So he used to throw me like Acid Mother's Temple, and there's other one, High Rise, an absolutely insane band, High Rise. And then you meet friends and you start hanging out with people. You know, it's just old school networking, but it was never done to improve my lot in the job, like hierarchy or anything. It's just that I just used to, I mean, I was brought up in that environment where there was music. So you just like, oh, I like that, I like a bit of that, I like a bit of that. And in the end, you have this plate with everything on it, and you just, you know, you can't eat it all at once. You've just got to like pick it. And then, you know, if you like pasta, you get an Italian cookbook, right? That's what you do. Yeah, and then you find out Italians, they got the chilies from South America. So then you go look into like chilies and what different types of chilies there are, and different types of potatoes. You know, like in Peru, they have potatoes that they grate over salad that taste like radishes. So that's what it's like with music. You know, it can just lead you everywhere. And I think if you've got a desire, a lust for it, I suppose, which I've always had, because I've had lust for pretty much nothing else. That's where it comes in. You know, it's a pretty sad life.
It's not at all, really. I mean,
I can't build a sandcastle or change a tire on a car, but I can tell you the first gig for the Grateful Dead. So,
I mean, that's the thing. End of the day, everyone has their own taste for things. Not everyone's the same, which is what makes life so interesting. And for some of the younger listeners to this, so essentially what Felipe still is a older-timey version of Spotify. Spotify recommendations. He's basically
not melodic.
Mixed road. Probably a bit more accurate, really, because there's stuff that you get on Spotify. All these streaming services nowadays, and it's like, oh, you know, we saw you listen to, I don't know, say Grateful Dead. Here's a bit of, I don't know, Eric Clapton. So yeah, but that's like, yeah, they were around the same time, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, I suppose. But the thing is, as well, I mean, this is a time where you'd walk into a record shop and you say, right, I like, say you picked up, you know, like you say Derek and the Dominoes, you've got Layla. and it's got Dwayne Allman on it, this other guitarist. So you go in there and go, is this Dwayne Allman? And they say, oh, he was part of the Allman Brothers. So then they'll pile you over to like the A section, and you pull out this like black and white Live at the Fillmore East, and you go, oh, it's like a tenner. So you go home and you put that on, and it's just like this insane Southern blues, jazz, 20-minute drum solo stuff. And you sit there, but you see, when it's on Spotify and stuff, you can just flick it. It's like the Tinder, isn't it? I mean, I don't like that. I don't know. If it doesn't grab, everything's like the old school whistle test. If you're not whistling it within 30 seconds, then it goes. But when you just spent a tenner on something, and you're 17 years old, you're going to sit down there, and you've got the whole ritual of sitting down with a bit of vinyl, and the covers, and you can see the pictures. There's a bit more. I'm going to be a complete old man. Like, it's not the same having something on Spotify. I've got Spotify, and it takes me longer to find something to play than it does actually to sit down and listen to it. Whereas if I go to a record and pull it out,
it's still better than, sorry, mate.
No, that's cool. I was going to say, it's an interesting thing with Spotify and Netflix and stuff like that. Something I was talking about the other day, that we don't own anything. It's like we're renting it. Like, how many new movies do you own? How many new albums do you own? Like,
I had to rent.
What happens if your subscription disappears tomorrow? You're like, shit, there's all those really good albums and movies that I've watched that I don't own, that I'm borrowing on, like, until when that goes away, when that format changes, let's say that Spotify goes bust or it goes on to the next big thing, you don't own any of that stuff. It's an interesting way, the way it's changed. So many things that was the point, really, just not owning it like we did. Like, I've got, like, in my room here, like, with my music stuff, a couple of shelves full of CDs that I bought, when I was younger, growing up, and, some albums. But I've become lazy. I've got my Spotify subscription, and it is rare, to be honest, that I buy a physical thing anymore. For convenience, like the MacBook that I'm talking to you on now doesn't even have a CD slot in it, man, or DVD slot in it. Like, it's a changing world.
It's really bizarre to see that some of this is still going, but people are still buying CDs. Yeah, not at the size that they're used to a point where you can literally just make a living from CDs. Like, for some reason I can't remember her name now. Female singer got discovered by David Gilmour.
Kate Bush.
Yeah, Kate Bush. Yeah, that's it. Because she never really played any gigs. Like, you're not going to have someone like Kate Bush anymore. But the point I was trying to make earlier, before Russ was making his point, which great point, is these streaming services are still better than the torrenting that was going on back sort of like in the early heydays of the internet. Because now you can just listen to a record with your £10 a month subscription, or if you really want to be cheap, listen to the adverts and do it for free. And you're not going to give your computer aids like you used to, like downloading through LimeWire and Napster and whatever. Which, on a small segue, there, did you know Napster has its own streaming service now?
Yeah, it kind of lost its momentum though, didn't it? I don't know if it was what happened before, because one of the reasons that's a smart thing that they did. They went after Napster because, first of all, everyone was against Lars and co. Going like, "Oh, fuck you, Lars. We want our free music," but not realizing that Napster was selling so much. I think it was millions of dollars worth of advertising. They weren't doing it for the love. They weren't doing it for the free music. It was a business model. They were in the music, making money, and the artists weren't getting fuck all. And then once they ended up getting the like by law, they came down, cracked on them, said you can't have adverts on the site because it's illegal. They then tried to legitimize, and by that point, the ship had sailed. They were like the MySpace of streaming services. Like, people don't really give a fuck about them anymore. And for me, I mean, I don't know if this is even controversial anymore or not, but fucking Lars was right, man. Lars was right about that. I mean, if you create a piece of art as the artist, you should be able to dictate how much that's worth, not some spotty kid who thinks I should have it now.
I saw an interview with, I think it's the guy from Maroon 5, and he was talking about how they had the biggest stream tune on Spotify. This is like a few years ago, and he'd earned pittance from it. I mean, it was like a couple of grand for however million upon million plays of it. Right, okay, yeah, fine, fair enough. But you think, but that's how musicians would earn their money. You know, he had to have his band on the road to keep them in a band. He couldn't just sort of like earn money from what he's written. You know, even the mechanical rights for like the other band members was zilch from it because it was just everyone was just playing it, and they were getting no money out of it.
Yeah, but then again, they are going through a major label, so most of that money gets taken away already. Like there's
no, it doesn't, buddy. Sorry to in there. Like Rolling Stones are on a major label, Beatles on a major label, Metallica on a major label. It's the mechanics, the way that it's changed through there. It's devalued what music is. I think culturally it's changed. For one thing, to go on a little tangent, that you know, how many people do you know get an album, put it on, and listen to it from start to finish without it being like, oh, that's what I listen to at the gym. That's what I have when I'm studying. You know, that they listen to, actively listening to music. It's different. You know, how many people do you know have a stereo, like a separate stereo that they pay decent money for? It's a different world. And I'm not complaining about that. Things change. But from the monetary side of things, that's why there's not going to be another Beatles. That's why there's not going to be another Queen. You know, because those guys weren't great at first. Like, they had a record label that invested in them, put them in touch with people that could help them, directed them. They could become full-time musicians. Even told Danny Carey, he said, how do you get so good? He said, well, I stopped working my day job and I could be a musician because the record company paid my salary until we could earn our own money. You know, like, it's very hard to become a great songwriter and a great player while you're trying to pay the bills. You know, like, you're working 40, 50 hours a week, and then you've got to create songs that are going to completely move people. You know, like, imagine trying to create Bohemian Rhapsody right after coming back from your night shift. I mean, some people might do it.
Do you know,
It's
funny you say that, man, because I always take Billy Duffy from The Cult as an example. You listen to like the first album, Dreamtime, and it's very early 80s, new romantic kind of punky thing. Then you had Love, which was massive, and it was all like, you know, he said the big Gretsch, sporadic. And then when they done Electric in '87, he was just like an Angus Young clone. It was awful, like really, really, really poorly done. And then within a couple of years, he was like LA Shredder, do you know, like, and you can go, well, in 2 years, I've not managed to do that. But it's like, well, but that was his job. He was getting up in the morning, picking the guitar up and going over everything. I'm getting up in the morning, you're getting up in the morning, everyone else is getting up in the morning, you know, scratching their balls, having a shower, then going to work. Do you know, they can sit down and they can hone it because the record company's got all, you know, like you say with Dana Carey, you know, the record company's paying his wage. He doesn't have to do anything else. That's it, you know. Doesn't have to like clean the curtains and like muck the guttering out for someone else.
I mean,
you know,
it's amazing. If your favourite bands, like modern bands, still work day jobs, and how many of them fit? How many of them don't end up going much further? You know, there's so many bands that you go like, oh, I fucking really like them. What happened to them? Or I had to go get day jobs.
Yeah,
you know, like, fucking hell, that sucks, right? To have that. And what was the reason that happened? Because it's a different world, you know. But like, to think that there were bands out there that could, you know, write a one-hit wonder and be set up for life. And I think it's almost a disservice. It's almost thought of as an insult. You one-hit wonder. It's like, okay, you wrote a song that millions of people really liked, right? But you wrote one of those. How many people in their life will write a song that millions of people, like, it's their first dance? You know, it's the first song that, you know, they did. It's a poignant point in their life. And then like, oh, you're just a one-hit wonder. It's like, fucking hell, man. That's
Well done. Good luck, mate.
yeah, yeah. I'll take a one hit. Fucking like,
Yeah,
I'll
I'll disappear into obscurity with my massive paycheck. Do you know?
Terence Trent D'Arby. So.
Yeah, but then in those days as well, you had all these gatekeepers. You had the record labels. You've had all these radio stations said, "Oh, we like this, we don't like this," so on and so forth. So that didn't really come down to what other people's preference was necessarily. Now everyone is able to see that more and is able to do that more independently, which is also potentially part of the problem. There's lots of different elements that come into it. Of course, not just this, but it's just oversaturation as well, because everyone can do it. Like, everyone can be their own label. Everyone can be so on and so forth. I'm sure you remember back in the 2000s or before that, before the days of the internet, when you had your own label, that was like a big thing. Like, oh, you've got your own label, you're independent. It's like, oh, but you're not like famous, etc. Yeah, but I'm, you know, getting a lot more than this. I can't remember who it was now. Famous like funk bassist was saying like how he earns a lot more selling his albums himself than he did with record label. But that's you know something completely different at that point. But yeah, at that stage, everyone can do it now. Now everyone's got their own label. Everyone can just do what the record companies used to do, which has made a majority of what record labels used to do are redundant.
I don't know if it has. It's a lot of people that probably have no business in writing and releasing music allow them to do it, and that's a judgment call. But like, imagine you go into like whatever supermarket you shop at. Let's say Sainsbury's, right? And any guy that can make a cake, or woman, you know, any person that can make a cake in their house is allowed to put it on the shelf. No one's tasted it beforehand. It's just like they've gone, can I stock it here? Yeah, fuck it. How many cakes are you going to have to eat before you find one you like? You know, because you've got someone that's got no clue what they're doing out there. And you kind of go, you kind of go to yourself, do I even like cake? Like, I've eaten 10 and they've all been shit. Whereas if there's been someone that's gone, okay, we need to maintain a certain quality, a certain level, before we allow it. Don't worry about the artistic level, but just there's got to be some kind of parameter. You know, I don't know if you like it or not, but it's a point now where it's so hard. Like, there are so many people out there that are locally or will get to a certain level. You're like, it's fucking awful. You know, that's a total judgment call. You know, but
I tell you what done it for me was the years of when MySpace came out. A friend of mine, Zach, he said, "Oh man, like you've really got to get your band on MySpace." He said, "It's fucking unbelievable. It's great." So I was like, I signed up to it and just saw that everyone had a fucking band. What am I doing, man? Like, suddenly you just realise that everyone suddenly got like a 4-track demo.
Yeah,
plays immediately. You go on their page. And you go like, and you hear it, and you go, well, they look like they're doing pretty well. You know, they seem to have like good followings and all this kind of stuff. And you play, and you just go, what the fuck is that? You know, and it's not like saying that you know someone would listen to my stuff and probably think the same thing. But there's no vetting, like you're rightly saying, Russ. There's no vetting system to it, you know. But then I have that opinion about a lot of things, mainly, you know, like punk music. I can't figure out how you can have a punk musician in 1978. Who then does a comeback tour 25 years later and he's still a shit. You've had a generation to relearn that fucking instrument, man. You know, apart from I think Steve Jones from the Pistols, he done a couple of albums in the late 80s where he was proper like hair metal. It's like he's learned how to play that Les Paul.
To him though, I always thought he was a solid rhythm player. I mean, listen to Never Mind the Bollocks. That album. I mean, number one, how tame does that sound these days?
Oh, yeah.
But how well, like the production, the recording, and that's all reel-to-reel tape, man. Those fuckers played that. It's a really tight album, and it's a pop album, really. To me, it's a
Yeah.
pop album with a bit of edge. And to think about the uproar rather.
We're going to get some messages coming through. You say this part, man. And they were manufactured by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you want to throw controversy out there, I think that I prefer the Pistols over the Clash, and you could argue the Clash were more real, but I think the Pistols, I can listen to more of their songs. That's just my personal taste.
Yeah.
Again, that's the thing. Music is subjective, and I think that's where I think the problem is the value.
Playing in time subjective.
That depends how much of a tight prog metal band you want to be.
So the difference is, though, is that you can get a painting on a wall that's just a red square with a yellow line through it, and that holds the same weight as being called art as, I don't know, Constable or someone, or John Sargent. No. This whole, like, the Haywain is a work of art, That's just a red fucking bit of canvas.
And that's the thing. I think one of the problems that we're having with music is the pricing of it, like the value of it, has been standardized. You don't have that with visual art as much as you do with music. Like music is like, oh, you pay £10 a month, you get it on Spotify. If it's on Spotify, a CD for an album is gonna cost you somewhere between 10 to 15 quid if it's not like a special edition or anything like that. So that has all been standardized. I think that's part of where the problem is, because it's art. You can't really put a standardized price tag on art. You have to, obviously, on a business standpoint, because you need to sell it to people. You need to thread their way, see if it's affordable, so on and so forth, and make profit. But I think that's where one of the issues lies. Again, with visual art, you don't have that same issue. That is completely dependent on each individual.
Yeah, it's just perceived value, isn't it? And also, like we were saying, a glut in the market. Like if there's, a million bands, at some point you're going to shut off, and other points you're kind of like, well,
yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it? And like say, the fact that a Constable painting, you can get a print of it, but it's not the same as an MP3 that doesn't degrade. It's going to forever. If you want to share that, it's going to stay the same.
Yeah, but then again, you have weird novelty items like CDs. It's probably ignorant of me to even say this, really, but I don't view it quite as a novelty item just yet. Like, it's not. It's bordering
CD is a novelty item.
Yeah, it's not like it's not quite a novelty item yet. Like, I think it's still at a point where people still buy it on a regular enough basis for it to. That people still have it, not like a vinyl or a cassette, which brings me on to my other point. It's really bizarre how they have made a comeback. Like with vinyl, I can kind of understand that personally. Like I don't have CDs anymore. I've got maybe a handful, but I buy vinyl because I prefer, the grooves, just all the
certainly
areas
made a renaissance in the last 10 years. 2020? So the last 10 years or so. Vinyl has got, I think, a lot. Is it because everything was being flooded with CDs and like bands wanted to be a little bit different and go, we'll put this out on vinyl, and then they got some decent sales, so everyone cottoned on. Like the Liverpool sound. As soon as the Beatles were signed, the record companies flooded into Liverpool and started signing anyone from there because it seemed to be like a winning formula. But I mean, it works out great because there's plenty of bands now that are pushing them out, and there's so many people that I know. There's people I know that they've got Instagram, like friends of mine that've got Instagram pages of just vinyl,
Yeah.
And it's fucking brilliant. I take vinyl anytime from it.
But then you've got cassettes. I don't quite understand why cassettes exactly, because I grew up in a generation where you still bought CDs all the time, and I think I came to sort of the end of when cassettes were still being used. I remember cassettes; they were a pain in the arse. They were just flip out. It's like, oh, your cassette's fucked now. Get the pencil out, buddy.
Stick it in your Walkman. Walk back from HMV in town, and by the time you got home, it's spooled all the way out.
I can only put it down to nostalgia. Like people kind of big on it. It's cool. I mean, like it's tactile. I mean, to be honest, most modern vinyl's not very good either. It's not pressed very well. They're trying to produce music on it that won't fit on it. I mean, like modern metal music does not sound good on vinyl. There's too much bass. There's too much low end. The grooves can't go wide enough.
That's how it's recorded, though, isn't it? I mean, you get some like
Definitely.
Brian Bjork puts his stuff out on vinyl, but that's just about all completely analog recorded. It's excuse me, it's recorded almost for that format. Like you say, you get a metal band, no, it's not going to work.
Yeah, like you get like Meshuggah or someone that's like, anyone's got sub drops or some shit on there, it will not work. It doesn't work, but it doesn't really matter. Like, I think it's cool that people buy it and support the artist, and even if they even take it out of the wrapping, at least they've made a commitment to that artist and supported them. So, I'm glad that's happened. It's the same as buying a T-shirt in a way.
It is. I mean, yeah, whether you listen to it or not, it doesn't matter. You support the artist, and all in all, it does look really fucking cool. Like, unlike a CD, you've got this big fucking print that's the size of your head, and you can see the details, you can see the actual artwork, you can actually read everything.
So I'm going to say, so if buying the vinyl and not playing it is all right, are we cool with people who buy band T-shirts who don't listen to them?
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine.
Because I ain't got a problem.
I mean,
Kylie Jenner wearing like a Slayer T-shirt or something.
I mean, that's a fashion thing. You could definitely argue it's probably disingenuous, but I mean, what is Tom Araya, going to like cry into like a couple of more $100 bills because some people have gone and followed some celebrity doing it?
I said that because it was the guy that replaced not Kerry King, the other.
Jeff Hanneman, you talked about Gary Holt from Exodus.
Yeah, he wore a T-shirt, didn't he, when they found out saying kill the Kardashians? Yeah. Do you know? It's like, well, hold on, you're going to take some merch money out of this, are you?
I think that was just promotion. I mean, it's great promotion.
Well, good, it fucking worked. I mean, I don't listen to Slayer. I'm a big fan, but I knew about it.
Exactly. It's a great promotion. And end of the day, I mean, as I'm not sure how much of a metalhead you are, Philippe. I know Russ likes a bit of the chugga chunk, but I
have my
talking about my what I like in females.
Like them.
But Sir Mix-a-Lot says.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that you're working on your Sir Mix-a-Lot metal gent remix record with your 9-string guitar.
Well, I did a track with Cunt and the Gang, so why not?
Yeah, I forgot what the point I was actually trying to make now.
Sorry, man.
Thanks
what I
for
was going to do, I'm going to go get another beverage because I wasn't as smart as Felipe, who had a spare on the side. He went to reload.
Man.
So I'll leave you guys to think up some great topic, and I'll be back in a moment.
Wonderful.
No, you did say about how much of a metalhead.
Yeah, that's the thing with metalheads. As much as I love metal, and I really do, some fans can be extremely militant. It's really like the band Baby Metal, because they supported Slayer and Rob Zombie, so on and so forth. Some of the big great metal bands, and there's so many people that are like, oh, they're shit, oh my god, because they're like a J-pop band, etc. It's like, yeah, but it's still metal as fuck, and it kicks ass. I think someone made a comment on like a picture that Rob Zombie took with them, and he was like, "Guys, dude, shut the fuck up. They're enjoying it. It's still metal. It's not the metal you're used to. That's fine. But
the thing is,
they're enjoying it. They're loving it."
I had it when I was in this record shop. I always use this story when people come up with it. It was when Britney Spears had just come out and was getting big, and I had an interview for a local college radio, and they said, because these people would come down and they'd hang out and everything, and they say, what do you think about modern music? And I was like, yeah, it's cool, and then, but I couldn't really answer because I said, we're not talking about Britney Spears, she's shit and everything. And I was like, no, hold on a minute, Britney Spears is music made for a teenage girl on her bed in front of the mirror singing into a hairbrush, right? If you're a 28-year-old male listening to it and going, my God, this is the best thing I've ever heard, right? going to query your life choices. But, it was that was shit because it was Britney Spears. It's like, no, man, that music is designed, it's written, and it's produced for this particular culture, this subgroup. And it's fine. You listen to it in context of where it's meant to be. Do you know? Like, someone asked me once, what's the heaviest album I've got? And I've always said it's Charlie Mingus, The Black Saint and the Lady Sinner. Although apparently it's called The Sinner Lady because I've got a little bit of a Mandela effect going on. But that is heavy. It's heavy as fuck, man. It's a jazz album from the early 60s. Heavy as fuck. Not one distorted guitar. There's a bit of a classical guitar piece in it. Heavy as fuck. But you listen to it, and take it in for what it is. So, Baby Metal, I mean, I think I heard it once. Yeah, it's fucking music, man. Put it on, crank it up. If you like it, play it again. If you don't, shut up and move on.
What you're saying there, something that I've talked about before. It's not for you. Like, someone going on, like the Ghostbusters,
man.
The chicks in it. It's like, yeah, it's not for you. Don't watch it. Like, yeah, you don't like it. It's not for you. Like,
yeah.
Saying something like that though,
don't be insulted by it. I mean,
yeah. But I was in a function band for a little bit. Ended up getting into there. It was a good bunch of guys, and earned some good money. Playing some guitar, it's like getting paid to practice. And we ended up doing some like Lady Gaga stuff, and what was one that there was what's her name? Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter.
Miley Cyrus or Hannah Montana, whichever one it was.
She did the tune with Mark Ronson, Nothing Breaks Like a Heart, right? And I was like, oh, really? Have I got to learn that? And I'm sitting down and I'm working it out. I'm listening to it. I've got my pen in my hand to get the chord charts out. And I'm like listening to it. And like the second or third listen, I'm like, oh, shit, it's really good. Like, oh, no, it's really well written. And like even stuff you don't like, you have to like. It's like when you look at it from a musician point of view, and you try and take away your taste, you have to go, shit, it's really good. And so same thing with some of that Lady Gaga stuff. It's really smart, So the way some of that stuff's written, it's clever.
Yeah. Listen to ABBA and a pair of cans, and listen to all the orchestration that's going on in the backgrounds and everything. It's insane, But I'm not going to go out and buy Super Trooper. I've now got it played in my head, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's a good point, Russ. I mean, like one thing that I find it's quite funny because some people are really militant about, pop artists. Like, I hate pop's fucking shit. Everything that's got the pop label on it is shit, etc., etc. Some stuff is really great. I mean, then you can just do a Madonna and just out of nowhere start playing Pantera as a new level.
Yeah, but she can fuck off though, can't she?
Mate, Noel Rodgers did with her though, man. Noel Rodgers is a bad motherfucker, and that stuff is brilliant pop music. I mean, again, I ain't gonna stick it on, but if it comes on, I'm not gonna be offended by it. It's like like at least there's something to it. I think there's some substance to it, even if it's like not my choice. Maybe that's it. I mean, what's the, for want of a better term, the thing that people are searching for? I mean, I think it's. Integrity is a big thing, isn't it? I mean, maybe that's why they try and inject it into the bullshit things like X Factor. That's why it has to be a backstory, because it's actually the music itself's vacuous. So it had to be that the woman in the finals dog died, and the other person in the finals
can relate to the tunes. They have to relate to the person, don't they?
Cancer, because there has to be a story. There has to be something to connect you to it with music. Like the idea of selling your soul at the crossroads, or the bands being rivals. People love a fucking backstory.
Oh yeah, there's like with Metallica, with Cliff Burton dying. That's like a big thing that they're still hanging on to. I mean, it's tragic, but it's tragic as it is. It sells.
For me,
records.
That was kind of strange because I mean, like, I was too young to know about it. I mean, I didn't get into Metallica until like 1990. And obviously he was dead when did he die? Like 86 or something? 85, 86?
Something like that.
I'm not great with dates. But like for me, like the first bass player I knew was Jason Newsted. And then it was like backwards after that, and you kind of get the legacy, but I don't know. I have no idea where I was going with that.
Fair, man.
I think what you were going. I mean, in the end, like controversy can give some artists, some bands and artists a big step up. One of the more recent ones I can think of that has been a mainstay because of controversy is Ghost. When he was like, "Oh, he's suing the entire band, etc., etc." And it's like, yeah, but that's because I wrote most of, like 90% of everything, except that entire argument. With now, his band is playing places like the Royal Albert Hall, which they weren't before. And so just giving that substance, just that extra story, just that, just adding that little bit of humanity to it and drama, so to speak, almost like a soap opera effect, I guess.
I think, I mean, it happens, doesn't it? Like this. So we're not going to get into politics, and I'll try and skirt around it. But 24-hour news, it needs to be filled with something, and people love a story, no matter if it's true or not. I mean, I think someone said this phrase to me before, like a rumor can go around the world before the truth's got his shoelaces tied.
Yeah.
Like people just, I don't care about the truth. And I'll try and get away from the politics of music, like, does it jam? That's got to be number one, right? Does it matter? Like, going back to Metallica, I'm sure James Hetfield said this. Someone's talking about the Load album artwork. And the guy that did it was a bit controversial as an artist, some of his methods and stuff. And at the end of the day, Hetfield said, I don't care, the guy blows goats. Like we hired him to do an album cover, and that's what he delivered. Like, well, what do you want? I mean, do you care? Like, let's say, for instance, like whoever your favourite artist is, if you found out that he's done something horrendous, like either before or since, like, I can understand it tainting the music, but it'd be disingenuous to go, oh, I've always hated them. Like, so why does it make the music better? Like, if you turn around and go, oh, well, he was a lovely guy. He's a great, like, he was just like me. Like, oh, like, I really connect with him. Shouldn't the music speak for itself, firstly?
Is it because if people find a connection to them? If you take something like the Lost Prophets, like people absolutely loved them, and they get a connection to it, and then they find out the guy's he's a bit like this. He's not a bit like it. He's very much like it, right? And they go, I've been lied to. The guy wasn't being what they thought was genuine. I mean, even like with Gary Glitter, I mean, like that. They had hits galore. I mean, that was the party music growing up in school. The school discos and stuff. But you don't play it now because of that. Because the thing is that because you know what the person is like, when it becomes something a little bit more horrific, I say that a little bit more horrific, but something that's more distinctive. Yeah, you go, well, I don't know about his music now because maybe there's maybe when I thought he was talking about I just love you, baby, that's fine. I didn't realise that he meant he loves babies. So you stop listening to it. I mean, I'm just putting it out there.
I think the thing is people can, fuck's sake, people connect to music.
29 minutes I've done it.
People connect to music in such an emotional level that they also they build a connection with that particular artist. Yeah. And there's people, I'm sure that, there's people that, are scholars in like Beatles lyrics and shit like this just because they like it so much, or, they're obsessive, impulsive, whatever, that they're like, oh, that person's like me, or oh, this is what the song means. Like, but then when you hear something like, with like Lost Prophets and Gary Glitter, or, currently, I think the guy from Murder on the Dance Floor, Davey Suicide, whatever his... No, not Dave. No, Davey Suicide's someone different. I'll take that back. But, if it's something like that, it's just like... That I can see why that ruins it for someone, because it's like, oh, that person's not like me. Or someone might reflect on it and is like, oh, shit, because he's like that and I connected with him like that, am I like that?
Do you know? And there's a good example of that. Sorry for jumping in. There's an old movie. I can't think what it's called, but it's a documentary on John Lennon from the early 70s. That was made at his house, and they're all around there. And there's some guy. They found some guy living in the grounds of his incredible socialist mansion, and they bring him in, and it's this German dude, right, who'd hitchhiked across, Germany and everything, and he's John Lennon standing at the door, and the guy's there. He's going, okay, well, what do you want? You're living on my land, and the guy goes, well, you wrote these songs, and that's my German accent, by the way, and you mean this, and you've said this, and it's like you're talking to me, and Lennon's going, how could I be talking to you? I don't know you. I've never met you. I'm writing down my thoughts. But this guy had travelled across, and he was obsessive that he was living in the grounds of John Lennon's house, because he thought John Lennon was personally addressing him. And he said, if I write a love song, it's about Yoko. It's not about you. Do you know? Because people forget that people have that connection, don't they? Completely. And so obviously some people get obsessive with it to that guy's degree. But the best thing I saw was he said, I'll come and have some breakfast, and he gave him some other, like a can of baked beans or something. I thought that was quite funny. Because you think they would have caviar, Dr. Pepper, but no. But that's it. When people have an artist that they see it as a betrayal because they have that connection to it, It's like, you see those, you read those magazines like the TV guides, and they have some actress off of actress off of EastEnders. Oh, how's the character? How's it going? Oh, I was accosted in the supermarket the other day. I said, how could you say that to such and such? It's like, that's not real. It's acting, and a lot of people can't distance themselves from it.
Do you think that's someone's own narcissism? They think it's literally all about them. They've got someone that's sold millions of albums, but that's my band. That's my thing.
Yeah, I knew them before they were famous.
That's a funny thing, isn't it? Like that phenomenon that I think it happens more in the very niche music, especially. I mean, I'm not so much into it now, but like my brother was really into like that dark Norwegian kind of crazy metal. And people, like, if a band sold more than 30 records, people like that sold out. Like, fuck those guys. It's like you go on about how much everyone should hear them, and then like a few people hear them. Fuck those guys.
I think with that, it ends up being almost like a god complex in some ways. Like if you put, like they get put, like people who are in the media, people who are, who have such a reach, they're placed on a pedestal, almost in like a godlike presence. Like, as you were saying, with like black metal guys, those guys are a majority of them, I believe, are very, anti-religious. So they're sort of replacing that with, someone like Varg Vikernes as an example, who's a complete and utter nutcase. And like when they do something bad, like, as you were saying, like lost profit, so on and so forth, this is like you're being told almost like, oh, God doesn't exist to some of these people.
I think
different things affect different people. Like you can have like 100 kids playing a violent video game. 99 of them will be fine. But that one kid is going to completely lose his fucking mind and go on a rampage.
Yeah. He remembers his controller.
Abacab, mate. Remember the cheat codes. Up, down, left, right, A, B, start.
I thought he was quite an old Genesis songs.
No, it's called the Mega Drive here, not the Genesis, mate.
XY. X.
Okay, I've just looked at the timer, how much we've actually just been chatting complete and utter shit, which I want to try and reel back to Penanceville at this point.
Next question.
Yeah,
it's good shit.
Because no one's made it through this part. If you've made it through to this level, well done. So
congratulations.
You lead
to be
the
fair,
way.
these are good substance. No, they're good conversations with substance. So, going back to Penanceville, because this is what the interview's about. Where does the name Penanceville come from?
It was the idea of talking about religious stuff. I've always really liked.
Good segue.
The idea, yeah, it was a good segue, unintentional, but just the dark side of it, the misuse of it, maybe. And that darkness, like the idea of a town of penance, like the like witch hunts and people using it for their own ideas. The very, very start of the band, when we had grand ideas of delusions of grandeur, was the idea of having a fake town animated in every song. There'd be like a body count at the end of every kind of video of the people that had died in the lyrics of the song. Like, funnily enough, the song we've just released, "The Body," as a casualty in the lyrics of the song. But that didn't kind of come to fruition, as bands do. You start with one idea and it kind of drifts off. But that was kind of the idea with that, with the name, that kind of iconography of the misuse of religion, especially Christianity being the religion that I grew up in. There we go.
Oh, okay. So I thought you were just taking a swig. I thought I'll be polite.
No,
he's got more to say.
Swig. That was it. Anticlimactic.
No, that's what we call a cliffhanger. So it's almost like a Sopranos cliffhanger. Now, if we were actually doing video for this, I would just go to black, and then bring it back, because
fucking Fanuc.
If we were not doing video, I'll take my shirts off then.
That's fine.
I don't know why I went plural in.
Layers, mate.
Well,
Are you one of those people that I'll see down at the beachfront just wearing like a parka, sort of like a full on like hoodie, everything is like padded?
But you will see me down there tomorrow, at around about 1 meter away, complaining about how people aren't distancing.
Making all them sandcastles. So, yes, with the body, because I saw it pop up, and then you literally sent me a message about it just a few moments after. Oh, by the way, this is this. Okay, cool. I'll check it out. Looked at it and thought, this looks really funky. Just the thumbnail looks really funk-like. I thought, oh, cool.
Funk.
Cool. So we're going to have listeners. What I really enjoy about your music is I can see it in so much visual media. Like, it always makes me think of Sons of Anarchy in some way. Or it could be in like Red Dead Redemption, and like anything sort of cowboy or like Western or like just American related. Because you guys describe it as like alt rock Americana, don't you?
I can't remember who said it, but we coined it. Was a heavy Western. So we'll go with that. We're a heavy Western band. I think there's one of us at the moment.
It'd be Joe, wouldn't it? Swear Joe.
Maybe. I mean, I think he definitely said that we were louder than all the metal bands that we've played with.
We were supposed to play a gig together.
Yeah, it didn't happen in the end, but it'll happen at some point. Maybe we get strange build. That's the thing with us. We get put on with mismatching bands. I mean, it's hard to kind of pigeonhole because we come from different places, like musically. Like I definitely have a metal background growing up. The stuff that like my early bands. I mean, the earliest memories of stuff I remember is like 80s music, Duran Duran and stuff. But the stuff that I bought with my own money was like metal stuff, Metallica, etc., going on to Pantera, heavier stuff like that. Phil, the drummer, like he's got a real varied thing, but also he's got a bass in metal as well. Paul, my bass player, he's definitely got the strangest taste in music I've ever known. I mean, like he's definitely got a punky bass to him, but like whenever I get a ride with him to a show, like it's fucking crazy the stuff he listens to in his car. It's like stuff I've never heard before, like mental gypsy music. Emma has got a great classical bass and also pop music as well, a violin player, and Rob Felipe, I mean, your base, what would you say your musical foundations are?
I don't know. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so there was a lot of gospel, really kind of like that way inclined. People getting up and dancing and doing cartwheels down the aisles. That's where it kind of started. My dad he was a trombonist for the Scots Guards band and played in big jazz bands and stuff. And then this is the funny thing for me is my mum used to do these things with the tambourine. Sorry, mum, if you tune in. But what she'd do, she would be in church on a Sunday and she'd go, "Oh, we could do this tambourine thing." And a week or so later, they'd do this. They'd go on the stage, and she would have choreographed these people, and they'd put tassels and everything on their tambourines, and just choreograph this whole like percussion section. I remember that a couple of times. So that's really where it came from. My dad gave me a record when I was tiny, and it was Stanley Turrentine, the saxophonist, and I used to listen to. I used to have one of those little suitcases that was a record player, and when they'd put me to bed, I'd have the volume down so I could hear it off the vinyl, off the needle. And the first tune was this one called Bonita, which was actually a bossa nova, and I loved it, so I used to play it. The rest of the records are fine because it was a double album on Blue Note. That's where this one track just got worn out. As a kid, I'd be dozing off and it would stop, and I'd have to get up and I'd put it back on. But yeah, it's like that. That was like that's where it started for me. And he used to listen like J.J. Johnson, who used to be a trombonist for Miles Davis as well, and it just kind of grew out of that. I was like, I listened to Marillion a lot and the Cult as a kid, because it was the 80s. There wasn't much going on. Slayer and stuff and Metallica, it completely passed me by. It just didn't. I'd hear it and go, yeah, okay. It didn't touch me much. Even like Pearl Jam and Nirvana, it was all like Allman Brothers and Free. I was reading Paul Kossoff insanely when I was 17. It was embarrassing. I don't think I listened to another band for about 6 months once. It was just nothing but Free.
But the fun thing is, like you were into that stuff. Like for me, like my old man was into all that stuff, and it was around. Those records were around, and I always liked Hendrix. Like always loved Hendrix. And then Skinner was always a big one. But like the rest of the stuff in his collection, I was just like so about. And then like my old man, fantastic record player at his place, where I grew up. And, then it was like a time of, you kind of try and one up your mates with like, they bring something round. You're like, oh, put something my old man's on. You're like, oh shit, this is actually really good. Like I'm there, listening to the metal stuff. And then you're like, fucking hell, he was right. that stuff. And that's the stuff you're banging on about. Like that Allman Brothers stuff, that Dead stuff. Like it was there, but like I didn't realize how good it was until after the fact.
I think it's what happens with your parents is your parents can tell you stuff constantly, but you need someone to repeat it that you've just met or a friend. They can repeat it verbatim, then you take notice. But like you saying that, a friend of mine, Jim, his dad, Chris, God bless him, is like a really, really good friend of mine. When I first met Jim when I was about 11 or 12, I'd go around there and his dad was there, and it was him. He gave me like Robert Johnson records, Climax Blues bands. I guess if you like that, you really like this early Stones album. And he used to give me stuff like that. And I used to go home and I used to just like try and tape it up, get a cassette tape and copy it. But that's the way it was, That's how you do it. Someone would pass you a vinyl over. There was nothing like that in the house. In my house, it was like I think there was some Kenny Rogers and Toto, but mainly it was like classical. Occasional jazz, like I remember my dad buying Toto 4 when Rosanna came out. That's a great album, man. It's a great album.
Tight players, man. Crazy tight players.
Didn't they play on one of Michael Jackson's records at one point?
What's that, sorry, man?
Didn't the whole band one day session musicians for?
I know Lukather definitely did a lot of stuff, rhythm playing, didn't he? Like Steve Lukather. Played a lot of stuff.
I'm sure they did Thriller. I might be misremembering this, but I'm sure they were on Thriller at one point, or Bad at least.
They were all session players, in-demand session players. So it's perfectly feasible they were booked in, God knows how many albums they'd done under a different name.
To touch on it again, like you're talking about artists like Michael Jackson, man. Like that's some personal life side, but that music, not only are they great songs, but how well are they recorded? And again, reel to reel tape, all that stuff, right? No auto tune, no adjusting the timings. Like that was all done on tape, man. Like just think about that and how good those still sound.
Yeah, it's aged really well. I mean, if you think about some of the early punk records, as Felipe was saying earlier, some of them songs are good. Like personally, I like a bit of punk. I'll listen to them like, oh, the song's good, but then you listen to the production, and you're like, fuck, Jesus. Like
Old early steps, isn't it? Like Beneath the Remains. It's just like, can we just scoop everything out of it? And it got some really class tunes on there, but
yeah. I mean,
I don't
like
know.
as an example, like I love the band Venom. They're one of the first bands that I discovered, and I love their record Black Metal. I absolutely love it to bits. But I listened back to it, especially after getting into like mixing and tones and just going over top with it. I listened back to it and was like, fuck, I can't listen to this. I just can't. It just sounds naff. It just doesn't sound good to me. And then you listen to like stuff later, and it's like, oh, this is different.
Okay, but if they re-recorded those albums, do you think it would be better, the same, maybe just different? What do you reckon?
Did they sound crap
think-
when you first heard them?
I saw Venom Inc. play Bloodstock last year. I mean, that's like 2 out of 3 of the original members. And they played some of the classic tunes. That sounded fucking fantastic. I think it really depends on the band. Saxon are a band that re-recorded a bunch of their early hits, like Wheels of Steel and Denim and Leather. And it wasn't for me. I liked those earlier productions where it was more reverb, a bit more of an 80s feel to it. I liked that more. I
Like that. Sorry for jumping in, but the performance of the tune, because when they recorded it like in 1982, they're still like coming out like, fuck yeah, we've got this tune coming out. But now, like 40 years later, they're like, well, let's re-record that. So there's a bit, it's the performance of the tune.
I think it's subjective to these songs and record and the feel. It's completely subjective on that. There's a band called Trivium. They did a cover of Kill the Poor by Dead Kennedys, which I thought, okay, interesting choice. Didn't think you guys would do that. I'd listened to it, and it sound like the way it was done, perfectly fine, clean, nice. I'm like, I don't really feel this is right. But then again, that's a cover. That's something different and subjective. Generally, I love the band myself. It's just one of those things. Again, it completely depends on the song itself. Like just going back to Venom, the song Black Metal. I've listened to a cover by a band called Vader, so it sounds a bit more like an updated version of the original, a bit cleaner, bit better production, so on and so forth. Well, I love this. This is fantastic. It's not Venom, but it's still like, the production has been upped a bit. I prefer it, but then again, that's subjective for every song and for every person, what their personal tastes are.
I've got to point out, I say that I did see Lawnmower Death. I saw Lawnmower Death at Download about 10 years ago, and I hadn't seen them for about 20 years, and they sound exactly the same. Even on stage, that production was pretty scooped.
Dang. So, I mean, I was saying about growing up with one of the things with like Penanceville, going from metal to what we do now. I think something that pushed me down that road was kind of seeing the limitations for myself. This is like, maybe it says more about me than the genre, but the limitations of metal. For one, it's very elitist. It's very much, and it's a case of, especially now, like a lot of modern metal bands, it's a case of you can only have this guitar with these pickups, with this amp, with this microphone, and that's how you record it, and like that's it. Like, and it's like if you don't follow those rules, like it's no good. And it seems to be no room to kind of grow. Whereas the other stuff, like you're allowed to do kind of more. It's a bit more free. I don't know if you find that yourself, especially. I mean, the genre, to put it on you, like your band, like Perilla, it's the genre. It's got a very similar sounding production in a lot of the stuff that happens. How do you feel about that?
I think, no, I agree with you. There's some things that originally, when I started the band, there's a lot of things that I thought were, okay, I need to follow this, follow that. But since releasing the EP, there's a lot more chances that I'm taking. Because the one thing that I wanted to do, because with a lot of bands, like as you've experienced with Load and Reload, is if you divert from your sound a little bit, your fans will bite your fucking head off. So that's the one thing I wanted to establish, was to try and do something different, something that's not exactly like everything else.
People cigarettes at Dylan.
Exactly, but with that, I think you in something in a genre like metal and rock, you need to diverse to be able to push through. I find, like, you look at a band, going back to them from earlier on, Ghost. They look like a black metal band, but they sound like a more rocky. Oh God, I can't remember names today. I'm never good at remembering names. The Doors. Like, I remember reading an interview with the singer. He's saying, "Oh, I'm really influenced by the Doors." Start listening to it a bit more. I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, there's a lot of Doors in there, and it's still, I'd say it's probably hard rock at best, like in the heaviest side of things, but still kind of metal. Like, it's got some metal attitude to it, but it doesn't sound like any other metal band about, which is what makes it interesting. So I think, as you were saying, yeah, there are limitations, but that's if you allow there to be limitations like that. I think, like, you, don't know if that's something that you're into, but like a band like Opeth, not really my kind of thing. But within like the metal world, they sound nothing like any other metal band.
I was going to
But
mention
they,
Opeth. So,
but
The thing I've liked about Opeth, I like the albums that no one likes. You know, like I liked I mean, because a lot of my friends really, really like them, and I kind of like. They did what was that EP they did, the acoustic one? It's got like window pane and such on it. Brilliant, no
oh,
grounding on it.
is that the one that they did in English and then in Swedish as well?
I don't know, man. I'm not that up on them. But then they did a recent album that again they got panned on because it was kind of like a cross between Marillion and Jethro Tull, and it was just like fucking this is cool, and everyone was like every metal guy hated it. And I thought that was the cool shit about it, you know.
is that the one they had? Because I heard them because someone said I used to see this band Porcupine Tree.
Oh yeah, the producer,
That's how I got
Steve Wilson, right?
I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Steve Wilson.
And said, "Oh, you should listen to these." Like, dude, this Porcupine Tree, man. Like, I used to drop acid and go see him play, but like, it's just they're the ones. Because I was going to say to you when he was talking about Ghost, about Opeth, because what I've heard, I've not heard a lot, but I played a couple of albums of them, and it's just like, yeah, it's almost like they're gone. Well, okay, we've got this tune. What can we do now with it? Well, let's do it like this. Do you know? It's done really well. I quite like that one. I'm not listening to them for centuries, but like, yeah, they seem to be one that was pushing it. Do you know?
Oh, especially. I mean, to be honest, I'm really not a fan of Ghost, but something that is cool about them is when everybody else was doing the same old thing. You know, like how fast can the kick drums go? Like how much bass can we put in? How low can we tune? They did an album that is very old sounding. You know, it's like it's the production's definitely modern, but it's definitely tips its hat to the old school stuff. And it was a brave move, I think, of a band like that to come out, and it could have really backfired. You know, to come out and do something that isn't like that. And that's the thing. Like, how many bands, like the gent scene, fuck knows how many people could listen to this, and I'm not really in the scenes. I don't care if I upset them. Almost every gent band to me sounds like we wish we were Meshuggah, but we're not quite as good. Like, it's so cookie cutter. It's so like people you've got to go, oh, I really hate those pop bands. They sound the same. It's like, motherfucker, you all sound the same. You're all using the same kick and snare sample. You're all using the same downloaded, like, whatever, pod or whatever computer you're using to play your guitar through. Like, what happened to, people having some, to go completely opposite side. R.L. Burnside, blues player, right? Piece of shit guitar, an amp you've never heard of, right? Making his own thing rather than, people going, oh, I'm so different, but I'm following the same rules because I'm scared. Does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense. I mean, that's. I had a very interesting argument from someone a while ago, which is every musician, every band thinks they're competing with other musicians. But what if you adapt the mindset of, no, you're not competing with other musicians and other bands because it's so subjective. Everyone likes what they like. However, you're competing with the attention of other people against things like Netflix, YouTube. So it's like, how do you get people to pay attention to you rather than the next season of, I don't know, Simpsons?
Fucking hell, if you come up with the answer, you tell me. I'll split the profit. Fucking hell. Yeah, I mean...
It's just an idea that I just threw in there with that. But that's the thing, if you think about it like this, because that's all it is, you think about what they all share is it's entertainment. And end of the day, people are entertained by music, people are entertained by video, people are entertained by art. That's what, when you get down to it, is entertainment. Whether it's cathartic, like I find personally music is a very cathartic thing. Art, visual, music, or whatever, is a cathartic thing for a lot of people. Whether you're the person writing it, whether you're the one listening to it, whether you're someone that's following it, so on and so forth.
Yes, man. Sorry, jumping in.
So I was just simply saying that the biggest competition that you have is time. That's the thing that's the one thing that everyone's limited to. Money. I mean, you can listen to 1 million records for 10 quid. That's not really the issue in that regard. Money that gets printed every day, more or less, whatever. Time. We all have a limited amount of time, a very limited amount of time. So people will try and spend it in the easiest, most accessible way with, okay, what's the fastest, what's the easiest way for me to get there? One of the things being Netflix, as you were saying earlier on, how many new films have you bought on DVD, so on and so forth? That takes time. You need to go to a shop, buy the DVD, put the DVD in, so on and so forth. Netflix, button, done.
I think what you have to compete with, saying along with that, is that when people choose to be entertained, majority of people, and I think quite rightly so, don't want something that's going to make them think. So if you give them something that's completely original or a twist on something and it turns them a little bit, a lot of people don't want that. When you got, like you say, about the metal bands all sounding the same, it's like, well, Pantera's not around anymore. I'd like some more Pantera. Let's write something like Pantera. And everyone's like that because they were such a fucking huge, fantastic band. So what happens and the market gets saturated with what's easy on the ear. These bands aren't necessarily, I'm not saying that Penance is in any way different, sorry Russ, but I'm just so we don't shoot ourselves completely in the foot, or anything else that I've done in the past is any different. But people want to be entertained, and you can entertain people the best way by giving them something really easy, the easiest way into the head. So you have to compete with that. If you, as an artist, want to do something that's original, what you're fighting with is people's need and want to just be entertained. And it's the lowest common denominator. Smutty jokes are the funniest, right? Because everyone knows, everyone laughs at a fart. Everyone blames a dog. Everyone says strike a light. It's like you can't do that. Was it? And I hate to quite quote David Bowie because I'm not a fan. Sorry, people, but he said like his most successful album, which was Let's Dance, was his least artistic because he wrote it for a market. Do you know? And that's what you're dealing with. And it's all right if you're like 10, 12 years into a career that you've built up. But if you're starting a band and you're trying to be completely original and out there, it's going to be more of an uphill struggle to get the gigs and the following than if you were playing. I mean, everyone knows what it's like if you're in a covers band, because you're just a mobile jukebox. That's it. People are playing the original in their head, regardless of how many bum notes you hit. That's what you're competing with, not the Netflix. It's getting the people's attention in the first place. People are going to Netflix because they want a drama, they want a crime, they want to watch Narcos or Breaking Bad because they know what it's about. When they look at your CD or they see your website, they don't know. You've got to entice them in with it, do you know? And if you want to be original, I think the uphill struggle is making people, the majority of people don't want anything that's particularly hard on the brand because, you know, everyone's been at work. They want to put their feet up and have a laugh, have a beer. You know, how many people go to see a band and still talk during beers and people complain about it? It's like, I'm here unwind, I'm watching the band, but I'm talking to my other half.
That's a good point you were saying there, man, about that. The other thing, kind of on the side of that, is that people don't want to make their minds up whether it's good or not. They need someone else to say it's good. They need a review to say 10 out of 10, we like this. So it's good now that so and so art person that I review, you know, whatever his name is, I see him on YouTube sometimes, Anthony Fantano or whatever his name is, or, you know, Krang or whoever say you fucking 10 out of 10, and instantly you're cool.
Yeah.
Like to go out on a limb, right, with a band that you put out there. So I say, right, I use your band, Danny. You say, so I go.
Felipe, shit, I feel targeted.
Check out Perilla, man. I think they're awesome. Felipe goes, no, they're shit. And now I'm like, oh no, man. Like, are they any good? Whereas, right, journalist of the day says Perilla are great, and I say to Felipe, they're fucking great. He goes, no, they're shit. I go, but me and the fucking general consensus say they're good, so you're wrong and I'm right. You know, and I'm not so scared of saying they're great or backing them up.
Yeah.
Because
so many people will go like, I haven't got a good taste in music, or my taste in art. It's like your taste in music is absolutely perfect and tailored for you. Do you know? You've got to just.
No, you're completely right with that. I mean, I think that's the thing, though. It comes down to who your audience is. Whether you go for a niche or whether you go for the common consensus. As you were saying, like David Bowie's greatest record, you know, his biggest selling record was something that artistically didn't really fulfill him. Fine. However, say, there's some bands who are like, oh, you know, we're going to try and go for the most common denominator. But you're better off having, say you go for common denominator. Oh, I've got, you know, 10,000 fans that, you know, like my music a little bit. You'd rather have 1,000 die-hard fans who will try and support you, who believe in you. Because
I'd take 1 million for one album. I'm getting older, man.
For one album,
I've got shit I need to pay for. Like, you're talking about time running out. Time is running out, my friend.
You've got a valid point, because like if you're going to be genuine to yourself, then you want that 1,000 out of the 10,000 or 100,000 that aren't family or closely related, that are fans of it. Do you know? And you know, I remember. I can't remember someone saying about it. Some artist, Nick Hayward or something in the 80s, who said, if I play music and only one person enjoys it, then it's job done. I'm happy. It's like, no, you're not. You just stuck this album out and one person likes it. No, you need those diehard fans, and like, you know, then they're always appreciated. But
I think if we use the example of something a bit more social, a lot more people can relate to, which is you'd rather be around someone or have someone around you that enjoys your company and vice versa. Someone who, you know, just both mutually like each other, rather than have someone come up to you and they're around you for status.
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
Never marry for money.
Unless they're old and you're young, go for it. Go on.
Man, I remember that. Remember Anna Nicole Smith when she married that like 90-year-old oil fucking billionaire? Like, there's a picture online. Like, if anyone wants to look it up, like of them on their wedding day. Like, he's in a wheelchair, looking like fucking Lo Pan when he's in the wheelchair from Big Trouble in Little China. The grin on that guy's face. Like, he knew he was getting rinsed, but I don't think he cared at that point.
You could afford it as well. She's only with you for the money. Yeah, I know.
Dang.
So, one of the questions I did have, we're going into a massive discussions from. I think this all came from just asking, what does where does the name Penanceville come from?
I may have been known for on tangents.
No, these are good. These are great conversations. I actually genuinely appreciate them. I find they're quite insightful and quite. They're interesting. I find them quite interesting. Whether the audience does so, put in the comments whether or not you enjoy these conversations.
Thumbs down. Sorry, Dan. What you
at least I know then. But besides this, one of the questions I have is, what do you guys do outside of music, other than ranting, of course?
Oh, that's a huge thing.
Ranting takes up so much time.
Look at that. I'm going to get another beverage. Felipe, what do you do outside of your music? I'm going to go outside and kill. You can hear that on the mic. There's some dogs outside fighting.
I thought you were hungry. What do I do? Sort of like in what context? To pass the time, or just like apart from working?
Apart from working on music, like what are your other passions, like hobbies, or just stuff that you like to do? Really,
I'm a big fan of tequila, so
I've noticed on the T-shirt you're wearing.
Tequila
it helps.
Sure does. I'll do this thing with a website called Tequila Aficionado. That's like an online blog of different reviews, and they're sort of like YouTube ones, and the distilleries will send the bottles over, and then you basically get quite all sort of like stick your little finger out and go, oh, this one tastes of like honey and avocado and that. Yeah, but I do a lot of that. Always trying to buy new bottles and everything. Yeah, that's one of that, and I've got that and my cigars, and that's about it. I don't do much else.
A fellow cigar aficionado. I like it.
I do enjoy the occasional puff. Yeah, so it's basically that, but mostly they're kind of distractions to it because I'm always playing. There's a couple of guitars around me at the moment, so if I come down in the morning and the kids are having breakfast, I'll just pick up a guitar and start serenading them. I'll make something up on the spot, and it's just like, oh,
Dad, play Billie Eilish.
I've not been asked that yet. It won't be long, I'm sure. And the answer will be, in fact, no. God, I don't know it.
You should maybe dress like her. Like one day you'll just come down with like bleach green on the sides, black at the top, like big orange jumpsuit.
I'll throw the sides out a little bit, do them green, and just boot polish the cube on top. But yeah, there's that, man. There's just, got about 4 rabbits, a snake, a reptile, dog, cat. Got an allotment, It's just look after a horse. For the other, well, actually, my other half does more. I go down there and just shuffle shit every now and then. But yeah, that's that. And I read a lot. That's it. I'm constantly reading up about half a dozen books on the go. So yeah, that's my passion. And chilling, man. Sitting in the garden on days like we've had today with a couple of beers and a fat Cuban cigar, obviously.
Yeah.
And just watching the occasional plane go over. The skies are so clear, man.
The plane, boss, the plane.
The rain. Do you know, I'll give you this, but I was in the garden the other night. And it's a beautiful, clear night. It's about 11 o'clock. I'm having a smoke. And the garden's south facing. So I'm looking down and I can see these little tiny dots flying overhead. And I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if they're satellites. So I'm like, I can't tell. It's really weird. And I've got one of those flight tracker things on my phone. It's like, there's no planes in the air. Said, oh, it's got to be a satellite. And then out of nowhere, coming from the west, was this really, really big, bright star. And I thought, man, that's a really low plane. And I'm waiting, it's getting closer. And I'm looking for the little blue and the red bits coming off the wings, and there's nothing, right? I'm going, what the fuck is this, man? This is fucking insane. But so I started filming it. I'm going, oh my God, I've really seen it. I'd had a bottle of port, to be fair, as well. And it's flying over. And I've gone, man, that's fucking insane. And I've sent the video to a couple of my mates. I said, what the fuck is this? And then I put the phone down and went, oh, hold on a minute. And I went, there's this app you can get called Stellarium, or Stellarium, I can't think of it, which is for like astronomy, so you can see the night sky. It's the fucking space station, wasn't it? It was me laying there in the garden going, oh, fuck, it's happening. Yeah, and there's the space station. Yeah, bit anticlimactic. It was no alien. But there you are. That's my life.
Boom.
Well, now we've got Russell to ask.
What do I do outside of music?
Yeah.
Not very much.
Hobbies, interests.
To be honest. I mean, like, it'd be a bit boring music, man. I play a lot, jam with as many people as I can, hang out with as many other musicians I can hang out with, teach music, read up about guitars in a really geeky way. I'm constantly conflicted between the fact of being a snob over music and music gear. You know, at one point you'd be like, oh, well, you know, you need this particular guitar, you need that particular amp. And like I said earlier, you'll see someone like R.L. Burnside or some old blues player with a fucking stick and a speaker on the ground. And you're like, oh, he sounds fucking great. You know, like, and I know all this stuff. You go like, yeah, you really need, you know, like this 1958 Les Paul got this versus the 1959, and then you'll kind of go, oh, it doesn't matter though, does it?
You sent me that advert, didn't you, for a Dumble?
Yeah.
£80, 1989 Dumble amp, and it's like, seriously, with Penance, I'm using a little Fender Blues Deluxe that cost me about $700 or $800. Is it really like that much more?
$120,000 this amplifier. $120,000. Is it that much better than this £1,000 amp or your £800 amp? Like, it ain't that much better, is it? Right?
If you can't play, if you can play like shit, it's going to sound like shit coming out of that. And it's just...
But loud.
Just a little bit louder. I remember
the clarity on it.
I remember you talking me out of buying. What Marshall was that now? It was the Kerry King, wasn't it? Yeah, a few years ago, Russ. When I was visiting you in the shop,
yeah,
I remember. I was like, yeah, that Kerry King amp looks really great. It's like, yeah, but it's only going to sound good once you get it on 10. You're never going to play it on 10.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, certain amps, I mean, it's like, they need to be loud. I mean, it's a different thing. I mean, like, for that old school sound, like, they need the power section to saturate. The modern metal stuff, that's why you get like a 150 watt triple rectifier, because it's all about the front end driving and the rest of it staying clean. But that older stuff needs to be pushed, and like, to get that level, I mean, that's a skill. Like, people like Eddie Van Halen, right? Not only is he crazy good as a guitar player, but if I was to give you Eddie Van Halen's rig and say play, like, it will show you who can play, because that amp has to be loud. I mean, people think that their amps are loud, right? But if you've never played a Marshall Plexi, you don't know what loud is. 100 watts through two 4x12s, and a guitar that's cranked up on 10, like, holy shit. Like, and every little mistake is going to be heard, like, louder than anything you've ever heard. And the skill to stop those little notes and stuff, like, yeah, that's a skill in itself, playing, man. Amazing.
So, speaking of gear, here's a question I have. What are your opinions on the Evertune bridge?
It seems to work for those metal guys that want stuff to just kind of like stay in tune 100%. But for me, I mean, like, I like when you can hear an album and someone's kind of bending for something and it's kind of going a little bit, you know, like they're stretching and striving for it, and it's like human element. The other tune for it seems good for the genre that it was made for, which is like very clinical metal. That's what I can see it for, and like it's a great bit of engineering, very clever, but it's
That
not
worked for me, man. That worked for me because I'm a lefty and I play right, so I'm sloppy as fuck, man. If I could have something like that, that would help out, or maybe not.
Yeah, that's the charm of your playing.
Probably, yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, okay, right. If you ever listen to Isolated Keith Richards, right, go onto YouTube, listen to Isolated Keith Richards tunes, mate. On their own, you'd be like, all right, like, but it's the vibe of it. The vibe of it totally. So, like, to other drummers, like, you were stay on the Stones, man. Like, what? Like, is he the best drummer in the world? Technically, no. But holy shit, what a groove. Like, Rudd from the AC/DC. Fuck me, man. Like,
Ringo Starr, man. Everyone slaps
Ringo.
Like, those tunes would be completely different with someone else.
Even, right, I'll even defend, right? I'll definitely defend, not even, I'll definitely defend Meg White. Like, she plays exactly what is needed on those songs. If you got Thomas Hark on those songs, right, would they be better? I mean, yes, he's a better drummer technically, but would they be better songs? I mean, I'd argue no.
I say stick Terry Bozzio on them, man.
Like, and there's a cool guy, man. I saw him at a drum clinic. Saying an interesting thing he said, where do good drummers come from? Because, I mean, we're lucky, like, guitar players, right? I've got a guitar next to me right now, right? Not plugged in, right? That's the noise it makes. I can practice like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. No one's going to whinge about that. Drummer, right? Where does that guy practice? Like, and like, even electronic kit is loud, but even imagine, right? 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s, because a mere mortal couldn't afford electronic drum kit in the 80s. Where did those drummers come from that could get that good? You had to have a place to practice. You know, if you were a kid, parents that, you know, weren't shouting at you, neighbours that didn't fucking hate you, you know, to be that level. You know, and I thought it's a really cool, interesting concept. Where did those drummers come from?
So yeah, that tremolo system or the tuning system, I think that's really...
Oh yeah, Tangent City.
I just don't have an answer with the drums, to be honest. I mean, I can't play drums for shit, so I don't know how drummers work. I mean, I'm happy with our drummer. He just does shit. I don't bother writing drums at all. Like, I'll put, like, you know, guide drums down when I'm recording an idea on guitar and vocals.
It was like the biggest bash to my ego, realizing that I was the least important member of the band. Like, the drummer is the most important member of the band, followed by the bassist, you know, followed by, you know, like the person that drives the van. Like, and the singer is the least important member of our band, and the guitarists, you know, equal.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're playing guitar as well. You are playing an instrument as well. How do you think I feel? Our drummer plays to a click, so he's the one who activates the clicks and samples and shit. If he ain't there, shit ain't happening. Nothing will happen if he's not there. So there's me just jumping about.
Drummer, letting them have in charge of technology.
Sounds like he's getting above his station, man.
He's probably the most tech-savvy guy in the band, to be fair, which is handy.
Talking of that, in our band, like Phil, our drummer, like, he's an evil genius. Like,
he's fucking good. I've seen him live a few times. He's good.
Oh yeah, no, but I don't mean as a drummer. I mean, like, outside of the band, it's like a computer genius. And you do. I mean, you have the cliche, you know, like Animal from the Muppets.
Yeah.
You know, just being a maniac. But so many bands that I know the drummers are the ones that are actually the brains, or very smart guys at least.
Fleetwood
Uh,
Mac.
yeah, man. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And even though talk of the metal stuff, personally, like experience of it, like Perrin from One Fell Down, I was in. Like he wrote so many of the riffs for that band. Very driven. And it's I don't know if like people like playing on that idea of you know the crazy character, but something about it. The good drummers. I mean, you get fucking shit drummers anyway. You get people
Oh yeah.
that you know.
You get chip people on the instruments wherever you go.
Yeah, like people like I'm a guitarist. It's like, well, you happen to own a guitar. I wouldn't say you're a guitarist, but those guys that are, I mean, it's so much dedication, and those guys, like one of my favorite drummers, Stuart Copeland, mate from the Police, monster drummer and smart guy who went into scoring movies, like a real understanding of
And
music.
video games. He did the soundtrack for the original Spyro games. You can
Oh
really
yeah,
hear that. Yeah. You'd have to listen to the original, I think, to the original because they remastered it a few years ago. But
right.
when you listen to it, the percussion you hear on it is like, oh fuck, that's Steve Coleman. Because I remember I played that game as a kid. Years later, I watched a small like it's on YouTube somewhere, and it's like yeah, he plays through the levels and then he builds the sounds from there. Then I listened to I can't the one with the codes, the police record with like times and codes and shit on it.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, that one. And it's like I listen to drums
Was
and
it
I'm like,
Ghost in the Machine?
I think it's Ghosts. I'm sure it's Ghosts. But I listened to drums on that. I'm like, oh fuck, this is Police. The Spyro soundtrack is the Police. And
No, fucking smart guy, man. You send me that link after this, man.
oh, I
Really
will.
interested in hearing that. Felipe, what drama? We could go on tangents. We're going from bridges. Name me some fucking drummers that people should check out.
Airto Maria, Brazilian guy.
Is he playing any bands?
He used to play he's got his own stuff, but he used to play for Miles Davis and Return to Forever, Chick Corea. He played for his own, plenty of stuff out of his. He's insane drummer.
Max Weinberg.
Who's he play for, man?
E Street Band, Bruce Springsteen. His son is now the drummer, his new Slipknot drummer. There's a great video on YouTube actually of them doing a drum off to Sing Sing Sing, and you see him. He's in a suit, and he's just playing it perfectly through like like sight reading it. Then you've got his son Max. He's got like the pentagrams and everything. It's like proper punk drumming. So it's so bizarre watching them two play, but it's amazing at the same time. Definitely worth checking out.
We'll go on a loop round backwards. We're talking about other things I do outside of music. I do like long form TV shows like The Sopranos. I'm talking about some of the E Street Band, Stevie from Steve Van Zandt.
Yeah, man, little Stephen.
And do you know how fucking disappointed I was hearing his solo stuff? I was like, yeah, he's like Sylph from Sopranos. It sounds horrible, but he fucking sucks, man. It's like, how has he been in the E Street Band for that long?
Do you know that I got an album of his, I think it was the last one he'd done, called Born Again Savage. Came about 20 odd years ago, and it was pretty organic, and it was like a tie-dye cover and everything. That's when he played it. It's like, yeah, man, that's not so bad. He was trying to get back to the Power Trio, Cream, and Hendrix Experience and stuff. So I've got like one of his from like 10 years beforehand, and it was like a really bad Prince knockoff.
Yeah.
It's absolutely atrocious. I was like, I can't listen to this. As much as I seem to like the bloke, this is no. I'm sorry, that one can go in the bin.
Have you got any of those pro lined up questions for us now, Danny? I know we tangented that many times.
No, actually, that was the very last one that I've had. It's giving a bit of a close statement because we're almost at 2 hours with this interview at this point.
You got cut to begin, remember?
And you're going to edit this down at 30 minutes, yeah?
There's no way I'll do that. But yeah, with this, are there any plans that you guys have for the band? I mean, I know it's currently a bit limited as we don't know, you know, A and B at the moment. But is there anything particular that you guys have your eyes set on to try and do next?
Is try and recapture that momentum we had. We had some cool festivals lined up, so who knows? They're unlikely to go ahead this year, maybe next year, but just keep on writing some good songs. Like I say, I've been working a lot on myself, my playing. Um, yeah, especially say it's been cool having another guitar player as good as Felipe in the band because it's made me need to get better. You know, like I'm like this motherfucker's kicking my ass, and it's been really good. You know, like some of the solos that I really want to get that stuff out because the body that we released was one of the earliest songs that we wrote. It was written before Felipe was in the band. He added these cool things to it for this recording, but we've got a couple of tunes that are coming up that he solos are like off the charts, man. Like, and I want people to hear that. So we need that's one of the things I'd say. Felipe, what do you add to that?
A mojito.
I don't think it sounds gay. Mojito.
No, well, thank you very much for complimenting me on my playing. When, at my age, I should be half decent. How long I've been playing, like, you know. But yeah, as for Penanceville, just what Russ is saying, you know, like the time off. I mean, I've not really played a great deal. I'm just sort of twinkle around trying to write bits and pieces here and there, trying to put a few things together myself, you know, that aren't particularly related to Penanceville. So I'm not going to go about hijacking this for my own.
Felipe's in a band called Herida as well, so plug those guys.
Oh, well, I'm in a band called Herida. And we were actually meant to be recording another album this year, but obviously this has completely blown out. And I had well, I think the last gig we had, which was about February, I managed to blow my amp up as well. So it was all pretty cool. That's right. We took a couple of years off and done a few other things with it. But yeah, I've just been sort of like writing on that. It's a 3-piece with a bit more. You can play whatever you want. You're not sort of limited. No one's holding you down, you know, which is what's good with Penance is that if there's like a solo in and the chords are A minor and D, you have to sort of like be within that structure of it. But with Herida, if it's A minor and D, well, there's no chord there, is there? You just got, my attitude is I kind of like listen to a lot of Ornette Coleman when I was a kid. And his idea is that you don't have a piano to put a chord down. So if you're in the key of C, you can play anything on it because it's just a note. There's no chord. That was kind of the idea with Herida. Get some riffs in there and me shouting down a microphone and then just see what happens. So that's more kind of like a no holds barred thing. But
yeah, because that's with Adam, isn't it?
Yeah, and Strother, yeah.
Yeah. Now you see, I always kept calling it Herida.
Herida. I've always said Herida. But yeah, we've been going for a while now, man. So it's about time. We took some time out. I ended up playing in a country band for a while. Doing that, found myself in Nashville a couple of years ago. But that's so that tuning thing you said for the bridge, that could have done me. Because of the Herida, everything's in drop C, right? And I'm playing this gig, and it's in obviously a standard tuning. And we go on stage, and I keep hitting these really awful notes. This is a festival in Wales. And I'm going, why the fuck is everything going on? And it got to like the end of the second tune. I thought, right, okay, if the third tune isn't bad, I'm going to have to change over. And I realised I was actually tuning, I was going E, A, D, G, A, E. So it actually dropped my B string down on it. Part of my brain was just in the wrong tune. So if I had one of those tuning things, I wouldn't have had any trouble at all.
No, it would have stayed out of tune the whole gig.
Shit, really? I don't even know words. I want an auto tune. I need an auto tune for the guitar for that. But yeah. Yes, that's what I've been doing. Just like dicking around with Herida stuff and some my own stuff as well. And just waiting to get back in the studio, you know, like
waiting to turn these amps up loud again.
people are saying like, oh yeah, you can't pick up because like we ain't played. When was the last time we played together, Russ? Like as a band, we're going to have to get a month of hardcore rehearsing in to get ourselves back up to spec. You know,
I think we played. Did we play a gig? We definitely played. We played in Hastings in February, and I think the last time we rehearsed in the beginning of March. I think it was because we were supposed to have an acoustic show. And that's what we rehearsed for, because we did a rehearsal where we took the acoustics to do a strip down thing, because that's something that is cool about the band, that we can pull the tunes back a little bit. Like a drummer will go onto a cajon and stuff, or a djembe, and we can kind of do a set that's a bit more stripped back. And we were really looking forward to that, because I'd gone through and reworked some of the songs, so rather than it being, I was just going to play an acoustic, and the other guys were going to play electric, but a little bit more stripped back. Yeah, reserved, special reserve. And we were like, and then obviously it all happens. Like, that's not going ahead. And it's like, it's got blue balls. It's like I was ready to go, And now it's fucking ages. I'm really itching to get back in that studio because especially we played a lot of gigs last year, I think. We played a good few gigs, and, getting that. I think there's a tightness you can only get playing live.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a cliche or not, but like being under live fire is different than training. Like you can rehearse, you can be in a rehearsal room all you want, but like going out and playing in shows and stuff that goes wrong and the sound isn't exactly how you want it, like, and you work around that, and having all that adrenaline of playing.
I like that.
It's completely different to being in the rehearsal room, and you get tighter and tighter doing that. So yeah, we definitely need to get back in the studio. Looking forward to that. Getting back to Mushroom Studios, little plug for them. And yeah, getting out and trying to salvage the shows that we've still got booked, depending on when old Boris deems it safe.
Could we do the gig in masks?
Must. But we'll see. Whenever we can get out there, we're happy to do so, because I don't think it works quite right over the net. I've seen people that do stuff. I mean, that's the thing. This is amazing, the technology now, because we managed to do, like, we finished off this recording, like the drums were done in the studio, the bass was done in the studio, and the violin and such. But we had to finish off the guitars and the vocals, like there's home recordings, because of this. And it's great that we could do it, but the internet isn't fast enough now to be able to play a live show because of the latency. We tried it. There was I forget what it was called, Jam something or other, and Phil the drummer and I tried to do something, like run everything through our interfaces, even plugged in, even got rid of the wireless thing, plugged straight in with Ethernet cables, and there's still that amount of latency that you can't quite do yet. Plus, I mean, even if you could, I don't think it would be the same, playing remotely. Even like, I don't know if you've ever done it with a band where you've played live, but you're all in different rooms in the studio. Even that's a bit weird, not having that eye contact. There's something about that, that energy of being in the same room, or even if you're like in a vocal booth and you're staring at the drummer, that's different, to really be there.
Like the drummer just uses his eyebrows to cue you. Yeah, this is where you come in. Again, drummers are geniuses.
Action man eyes,
That's the thing. We all like to bash drummers, but really, they're the clever ones. If you think about it, like they're the ones that have to do.
Else to carry their gear. That's why.
So it's almost the same concept as cats. You think, oh, they're my pet. They're piece of shit. And it's like, well, who's the one cleaning up my shit? You are. My owner is.
I'll tell you as well, the connection between drummers and cats is when a cat fucks up, and then you look at the cat, he just sits there and goes, not me, I didn't do anything. You didn't see that. And you do that with a drummer. Do you have the trouble when they fuck up and look at them? They're like, "What? I'm just holding the beat down." I threw Phil out. We played somewhere, and I just shouted at him more cowbell at the top of my voice, and he went, "Oh." Remember that, man? I can't think where we were. More cowbell.
That's the thing as well. That's Semarov, our violin player. Like, she finds cowbell the most hilarious thing on the planet. Like, and when it's thrown in, like she just collapses and giggles.
So Russ, when gigs come back, are you going to be the one to do the slut drops?
Mate, not with these knees. Not with these knees. I used to, man. We used to. I was for 5 minutes. I was in a band called Oceans Aside, and at the end of one of our tunes, we used to all slut drop together. I had a fine ass back then in my ute.
A good old badonkadonk.
Yeah, man. But I'll leave that to Emma, violin player. You know, definitely I would drive the crowds away with my my slut droppings.
Slut droppings. Oh. And I think this.
The time, Russ. Jesus.
I think this is where we will leave the show this time round. It's taken me a few years to finally get Penanceville on here, but I'm very happy that I did. And I hope I get to have you guys on another time. Remember, guys, listen to the body. I was going to say the host for some reason. We're talking so much about metal. Like, the host is a really metal name. No, the body.
We're not that metal, sorry. We'll probably be the least metal band on your podcast.
Yet, you guys have one of the most metal attitudes as well. So that's kind of like nice sort of equilibrium there.
There we go. Metal bruv.
In it. Thank you everyone for episode 4. Don't forget to check out Penanceville and to like, subscribe and share the podcast. And this is Uva. Thanks guys.
Cheers, man.